Hi, Kate. Thank you for coming on today. I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Um, I'll let you tell the audience a little bit about yourself first.
My name is Kate Taylor, and I am a fashion stylist based out of LA. I kind of am bi-coastal. I built my business in Boston for 15 years, so I go back and forth to see those clients, and then live with my partner in LA. That is half of my business. The other half of my business is I have online training programs where I train people to become fashion stylists and build their fashion styling businesses. So I do a little bit of everything.
That's so great. And so for the audience, the reason I wanted to have you on today is and we've talked about in previous episodes style, and I've even had other fashion experts come on, but um I think to really help the audience, I think fashion is a great way to use an analogy to help them with their home. And there is so much overlap in what you and I do and in
Mhm.
both industries. And so
Yeah.
often you'll hear designers who then went over to the fashion world and vice versa. There is just
Yeah.
a big overlap in general, but I think there's a big overlap for the audience as well. And I think I even spoke to you like my accessorizing course. And what I'll say about accessorizing, I use fashion as the first example because it just
Mhm.
paints a picture that people can relate to. So like I'll
Yeah.
say I might have a black sweater and pants that looks great, but then it's once I add the necklace, the scarf, the belt, the jewelry, right? And so accessorizing your home is a similar process. So it's a great analogy. And
Yeah.
so that's why I've got you on today. And I think you and I also have a really similar, I would say, philosophy and approach to the whole thing,
Yeah, I agree.
which I think is cool too. So
Yeah.
what I wanted to start talking about as a first point is confidence. And the reason is I think that's what it all comes down to as far as helping people
Yeah.
and helping them gain confidence in doing what is good for them and their
Yeah.
home, and in your case, their personal style. You even said on your website, I'm passionate about supporting you to feel confident in your style so you can bring your dreams to life. And it's true. And it would be the same for me. Like, unless you're confident in your style and what you want to do in your home design, it's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel like you. And so I want to be the one to help guide and help you get there as you do with your clients too. So I want to explore it a little because, like I said, I think it's the core of the struggle that people are feeling as far as trying to define their style. And they feel like if they can't define their style, then they can't even decorate their home. Or with you, they probably feel like if I can't define my style, then how am I going to get dressed and look good? So let's talk about your process and how you help your clients build confidence and sort of the whole philosophy about confidence. I think that's a good starting point because without it, you can't really move forward.
Yeah, I think that everyone has their own sense of style. They have their own desires. They have their own dreams of how things look for them. But most people that I meet that work with us have kind of stuffed that down because of lived experience or things they've heard or seen or what their mom told them when they were younger. And so they've put themselves in a box where that box might be labeled, I have no style, or that
Mm,
box might be labeled, I don't know how to get dressed, like for whatever that they have started to tell themselves. So the
mhm.
confidence actually starts with defining their style with us. I do a co-creation, so it's not me coming in and just saying, here's your style, I'm the stylist, I know, here's your style. I don't
Mhm.
believe in doing that because it it's actually, as far as the fashion goes, it's a lot of people's worst nightmares. They have a lot of fears that a
Yeah.
stylist will come in and say, "Here's what you have to wear. You need to just like it. Just deal with it." And they are so afraid they're going to hate what gets picked out for them. So we start the confidence out by saying, "Hey, this is a co-creation. I am
Yeah.
never going to put you in something that you hate. I'm never going to put you in something that you don't feel comfortable with. That's
Yep.
not how I work. So let's co-create together." And I have them kind of play. I call it invitation to play. So let's just play. Let's just see where your eye goes. Let's see why your eye is going there. And then we create um I call it 5 words, but we create the descriptors for what their
Mhm.
style is, at least for our time together. Because another thing that I believe to be true about style is once you get into that confidence piece, your style should evolve over time. You should
Yeah.
not be wearing the same things you wore 10 years ago, not because there's anything wrong with that, but because you probably have evolved as a person and you've evolved with your
Yeah, you and I
desires.
are gonna get into that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so
But
this is what they're looking at right now. So let's talk about how to give you confidence right now where you're at by just getting some descriptors. And we just start with that.
but when you get those descriptors, the message is feel comfortable with your descriptors. Like, it's okay if
Exactly.
it's not what you're seeing all over the media, right?
Totally.
I mean, that's my thing. I have a very similar process where it's like, let's kind of play, like, I ask a lot of open-ended questions to narrow it down to some words for them and just have them own their words. Like,
Yeah,
those are
I
your
have them
words.
really sit in it.
Like, those are your style, and, like, that's all okay if they're different words than your neighbor, your best
Mhm,
friend, what you're
mhm,
seeing on TikTok. Like, it's
mhm.
okay because I feel like make your own damn trend. You never know what'll
Yeah.
happen with what you wanna put together. So, it's really, really important. I think especially with social media now, and we are so bombarded with, these messages, and it's normal to wanna conform. It's kind of like a normal human thing, but I think you've gotta be really careful of that in fashion and in home because you don't wanna become ordinary, and that's very I think with social media now, it's even easier to slip into that.
Yeah, and I think that that just speaks back to not having confidence in your style, right? If you're just
Right.
wearing what other people are wearing or putting things in your home that you see other people put, it's probably because there's I mean, we could get really into it here, but it's probably because there is a core need or a core value that's not being met. Maybe that need is being accepted. Maybe that need is feeling loved or whatever. And you think, well, if I get that thing, then maybe that's going to feel better then. We find that a
Right.
lot with people's closets. They keep buying things and they end up wearing 20% of their wardrobe and
Yep.
there's 80% of it they never touch, but it's stuff that they bought because they thought, well, maybe this next piece will make me feel good. Well, maybe this
Right.
next one is it. Maybe this next one will help me get more clear on like how I should dress. And that's never the answer. The answer is we need to figure it out first, just from a place of descriptors. And I have
Yes.
them sit with it. Like, how do you really feel when you hear that word? Do you want to see some pictures to make sure it really feels good? I mean, we make sure that it feels really good to them. And then I will say, I have a lot of Kate isms. I'll say, this is not a tattoo. We can change this at any time. It's
Yep.
not something you have to feel married to, but it is
Right.
where we're going to start.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's you've gotta I wanna empower and everybody listening, like, really go for what you like and also what works for your home. So I'll talk about fashion a lot where, like, you might see a new trend come up or something in a magazine and it's really pretty, but I'm at a point in my life too where I know what's gonna look good on me and my body shape and style, and if it's gonna really be unflattering for me, I'm not gonna buy into the trend
Right.
because why am I gonna wear something that doesn't flatter me or make me look good? So maybe I could get a smaller piece of that trend in an accessory or something like that. But same thing for your home. If it doesn't work with your lifestyle in your home, don't do it. You know,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah. And
reject
people do
some and
that.
accept others.
Yeah. And people do that a lot because it is trending. I mean, I can't even count the amount of times that I'm working with a client. We're in like the shopping phase, finding things, and we'll get on a call and be like, "Oh, I also ordered this. I saw it on TikTok." And I'm like, uh
I
like,
know.
I just know it's gonna be something from, like Australia that took 3 weeks to get to them,
Yep.
and now it doesn't feel like how they thought it was gonna feel. It doesn't look
Yep.
like how it looked on the model, and I'm like, "Yeah, I could have told you that." Like, I
Yeah.
could have told you that. But, people get excited. They get excited by things, and I try to encourage them. I don't wanna squash that excitement. So I try to say, if you see something and you're obsessed with it, you're obsessed with how it looks on someone, send me a picture of it because we can figure out what about that your eye is being drawn to. Like,
Yep.
what about that trend do you love? Maybe it's the color, maybe it's the fit, maybe it's how you are kind of conceiving that the fabric might feel. Like, maybe
Yeah.
it's something in that world, and I can help guide you with that
Yes.
without you wasting time and energy and money.
Yes. That's such a good point. But yeah, I think just letting people know right off the bat, until you get confidence and comfortable saying, this is what I like, it's going to be hard for you to move forward and truly end up with the end goal that you and I are trying to achieve. So that's kind
Exactly.
of my message there.
Yep.
The other thing that I find, and I'm not sure if you find this or not, you and I spoke, when people are doing their homes, they have a fear that it's not going to all coordinate. And I have this rule called the common denominator rule, which is that we can like a lot of different styles and things. That's okay. I actually encourage that, because you don't want your home being ordinary or like a uniform. We probably don't want our personal style being like a uniform. But I do think we gravitate to things that have common denominators. And
Yeah.
that becomes the thread that will just organically make it work. So instead of feeling stuck like, well, I can't do this or I can't do that, if you just go again with what you like and trust it, you will
Mhm.
find these common threads.
Mhm.
I have stuff in my home that I bought 15 years ago that all of a sudden I might bring something new home this weekend and I'm like, "Oh, wow, they look so great together." Well, that
Yeah.
didn't happen by accident or by luck. We tend to gravitate. I don't know.
Yeah.
So just wanted your kind of thoughts about
Yeah,
that
I
as
think
well.
the same thing happens with fashion. That it's the reason we get the words and we don't say, "Oh, you're like," for example, when people do other clients' colors, they give it
Yeah,
names, right? Like
right.
you're a winter, you're a spring. I don't give them a box they have to stay within of like, okay, your fashion is boho and like period point
Right.
blank. That's why we
Right.
give the 5 descriptors, because my rule is as long as it hits 3 out of 5 of those words, it works. And
Yeah.
that's how we create cohesion. That's how we create a through line in the entire wardrobe so that everything is interchangeable. They know how to wear everything. It's not because it's the same pair of pants in 5 colors. It's because
Right.
there was a through line.
Right.
So I think it's the same thing what you're talking about. As long as you understand what the goal is and what we're trying to get to, well, you
Yeah.
could represent most people say edgy, they want to be edgy, and edgy means like something different to every single person. So if I hear it one more
Yeah.
time, my ears might just like ring for the rest of the day, but edgy could mean for one person leather. It could mean for another person lace. For someone else, it could mean bodycon. I mean, there's just so many different things it could mean. But that's why we use the words, because it can mean a lot of things. So if somebody
Yeah.
sees a bodycon dress and they're like, "Hey Kate, could we make this work?" Yeah, we can make it work, and we can loop it in with your style. So I think it's the same thing. It's just creating that through line, creating the cohesion.
Right. Because I think what people have to be careful of in both scenarios is you also don't want every room to look the same.
Right.
You also
Exactly.
don't want your wardrobe necessarily to be like a uniform in that.
Yeah, and most people get a uniform. They'll get 1 pair of pants, and they
Yeah,
literally will buy them in every single color because 'cause they're like, "Well, they
right,
work." I'm like,
right,
"Yeah, but they don't, there are other options that will also work, and
right.
we can branch outside of that." No, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like that pair of pants you wanna buy in 5 colors, rock on, like, totally
Yeah,
fine, but there are other choices. Like,
yeah.
you don't have to create the same
It's
thing.
just like you need to play a little, you need to have some flexibility, and so that's kind of where I stand on the, like, "Uh-oh, it's not gonna be cohesive," and I'm like, "Organically, it actually will be."
Yeah,
Because you would be surprised when you just stay true to yourself. Like I said, there's stuff that I bought 20 years ago, and I could bring something home that I just bought over the weekend, not even thinking about other things, and being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe how great this goes together." I
yeah, and
even
it
find that
doesn't
with
have
my
to be.
wardrobe, like, I'll have bought something new, and I won't know if I have a top to go with it, and
Yeah,
I'll go home first to look, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, actually, these 3 things, like, it all works together." Well, why is that?
yeah.
Well, probably because I'm gravitating to certain elements about, you know what I mean, in my wardrobe, and that those things end up working.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be. I think it's important to note, it doesn't have to be like a paint by number that has to be exact, and
Exactly.
I have to follow this formula or I'm gonna look crazy or my house is gonna look a mess. It doesn't have to be that. That's why I tried it, and it's usually a strong reminder throughout the process when they're working with me, but I just say, "Remember, this is permission to play. We're just gonna play." And a lot of times I have to use me as the reason that they'll play. Like I'll say, humor me. Just humor me. I might be totally bat crazy. But humor me. Let's just see. And if you put it on and it looks horrific, then it's on me. It's not on you.
Right.
And then they finally give themselves permission to play and they'll put it on and be like, oh, I do kind of like it. It's like, yeah, because you gave yourself permission to just try and just see.
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in trying. Same thing with me. I could
Exactly.
bring like a swatch or say to them, look at this swatch that's like totally different than something you'd ever do.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're going to put it up. Just put the swatch up. You can pull the
Yeah.
swatch down if it's not right, but like explore that for yourself for a minute.
Yes.
Explore this wallpaper pattern or explore this bolder color or this different color. And you might be a little surprised that
Yeah.
you like
They
it. Yeah.
are always surprised.
Always, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's good too. I want to talk about this is a big thing for me is mixing highs and lows.
Mhm.
And it applies to fashion and home. I'm a huge advocate of it. I just naturally sort of grew up that way with a creative
Mhm.
mom and creative grandmother, and real style to me isn't about budget because it's almost easier to go and buy all the big hot brands
Oh, yeah.
and put them all on. That to me that's easy. Real
Yeah.
style is knowing like not
How to
even
mix
knowing
it
the
all.
price tag of something. Yeah, so I'll give an example. I was in we have a really nice little department store in our town, which if you needed like a dress for a special occasion or you want designer stuff, they have it. So I was invited to this awards thing and I needed a dress and shoes. So I went in and I found this dress and it was kind of simple, but it was cool. I didn't even look at the price tag, but I put it on and it just really looked good on me. And it wasn't terribly expensive. I was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But I needed a fabulous pair of shoes. So I walk over to the shoe department and I grabbed a designer pump that was fantastic. And I put it on and I'm like I'm like walking around the big mirrors to like look at everything.
Yeah.
And one of the sales associates who I know there was like, see, this is it right here. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, most of our customers wouldn't have the confidence to do that. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, well, the dress you have on looks fantastic on you, but it's not like the biggest name we carry or the most expensive price tag. And then you've paired it with those expensive designer shoes and like you feel great and look great. But we have a lot of clients who wouldn't do that because the dress wouldn't be like a high enough brand for them or a high enough price tag, which is so stupid because if you didn't, she knows what it is because she works there. But if you didn't know, and I was like, well, this is like an example of who I am because I could have like a t-shirt on from the Gap, but like an awesome designer handbag, and I feel great about myself. I could care less. If the t-shirt fits well, if it looks good, if the fabrication's good, what do I care? You know? So
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting. I just think mixing highs and lows are good because spotting something that's stylish is spotting something that's stylish. Now,
Yeah.
with clothing, yes, you want to make sure fabrication's good and something is going to hold, like last and not wear out or rip or come apart. And
Sure.
same with certain home things like you the bones of it, like you don't want to buy like the cheapest sofa ever or your upholstered stuff, but like your accessories and things like that, you know, use kind of that nice aesthetic things that you gravitate to. So I wanted to discuss highs and lows and just real style isn't about a price tag and how again it goes back to confidence. Like she said to me, like, wow, we have people that just wouldn't do it, even if it looked great on them, like it looks on
Yeah.
you. They would just say, I can't wear this dress because it's not blah, blah, blah. And to
Yeah.
me, that's just like that's just a lot of noise for me, you know?
I mean, honestly, when I hear that, like if someone wouldn't wear it because it's not a high brand to me, and I don't mean this in like a ugly way, but
Right.
that to me just says you just don't know your style yet. And that's fine, but you're depending on and relying on sticking with a brand assuming that will mean I look like I have style. Where
Correct.
if you think about some brands that you have seen some of their stuff out there and you're like, what the actual
Yeah.
F is going on with that? Like they make some crazy things,
Yeah,
but
they do.
if you haven't landed on your style, you'll put yourself in that because you're like, well, it's Gucci or well, it's
Right.
Balenciaga or well, it's, Versace. That doesn't mean it looks good. Like that
Well,
doesn't
that's the other
mean,
thing, like, yeah, it could be Gucci, but you put it on, if it looks horrible on you, I
yeah.
don't care if it's like,
Yeah.
because
So
it looks
it's,
horrible on you. Yeah.
if I hear anyone saying like, well, I couldn't wear that because it's not a name brand, then I would say, okay, so what's actually going on here is you're not comfortable with your own style yet to know you could play with anything. I could take you to Goodwill and we could find something that looks bad. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on here, and I just have a tendency to flow. So it looks awesome. Let's say looks
Right.
awesome. And we could also go to Bloomingdale's and get some of those designer pieces, and they could go together very easily. But if
Easily.
you haven't landed on your style and you don't have confidence in the message you're trying to send, because you are sending a message, by the way, every time you get dressed and start your day, you first are sending a message to yourself
Yeah.
about what you believe to be true about yourself by however you dressed. And then you're sending a message to the world about what you believe to be true about yourself and what you want to be known as. And it just says to me, you're just not clear on that yet. And you're not clear on how to do that. Like maybe you're clear on the message, but you don't know how to visually do that. So
Yeah.
you're relying on
A brand
high
name.
price items
Yeah.
to make it appear as though you have. And
Right.
that's the quickest way for me to say that's even more obvious than someone that had a full outfit that they just got no brand stuff at like Nordstrom,
Mhm.
and we don't know what it is, but they look more put together than you. That's probably because they know what they're trying to say and how to do it with their clothes.
Yeah, it's all really interesting, and there was something I was watching, you've probably seen it on social media, where they go up to people and they say, like, "What are you wearing?" And the person will be like, they'll
Yeah.
say, and there was one that I saw, and the person had on, like, she had fabulous Gucci, and she had, like, a designer jeans and, like, a Cartier, she had a lot of brands on and, like, a Chanel bag, and, there was this commentary that came in from a bunch of European viewers, and they were like, in the
What
US,
are you doing?
you just stack labels, because they
Yeah.
were comparing it with, I think, a woman, in France who might have
Yeah.
had one designer thing on, but the rest was like, but it was super chic, and so they were saying how in America, you just feel like if you stack logos or stack brands, you're in style, but that's not how we view it here, and I just thought that was kind of an interesting take.
Yeah, I wish more people would lean into the European style because
Right?
it speaks more for who you are than like how much money do you have or like what do you want to be like known as the ritziest person. Label stacking is not a thing in Europe. They are very like if you go to Paris and you're wearing something that's like Gucci all over it or whatever, you will get looks because I
Yeah.
mean I love Paris, and some people are like, "Well, Parisians are just rude." I've never had that experience, so I
Me
cannot.
either, by the way. They couldn't have been
Yeah,
nicer when we were there, by the way.
yeah,
So
I'm obsessed with Parisians, but anyway, the point is, you'll get some looks because they're just I know this from someone who is a Parisian, who is a photographer, and a very good friend of mine, and has shot a lot of very famous people over there. She told me it is such a visual representation of a try hard is how I would reinterpret what she had said to me. Like it
yeah.
just is so obvious to the Parisians that you're trying so hard and they're like, why? Like just
Yeah.
what are you trying to do here? You don't like you could be sitting in a cafe and there could be a billionaire in just a plain like black linen dress with some
Yep.
sneakers. And they might
Yep.
be expensive sneakers, they might not be, but they don't care for you to know. It's
Yeah.
just like not because of it's a money thing, but they're just like, why you don't have to do that. Like just be yourself. But I
Well,
think
there's
that
also
America,
yeah,
to your
go ahead.
point, there's a lot of people that aren't themselves. And so they rely on brand stacking to say, well, look, I've got Cartier and I've got Rolly and I've got Gucci and and it's like, okay,
Right.
congratulations. Like I
Right.
that doesn't mean that you know your style. That doesn't mean that you're clear on what you're trying to say in the world. That doesn't mean that you're connected to who you are and how you're showing up. That
Right.
just means you got expensive things.
Right. And to me, it can be a lack of imagination. Now, I
Yeah.
love certain brand things. Like there could be something Gucci comes out with, and I'm like, oh, that's fabulous.
Oh,
But I will
totally.
probably pair it with a lot of other stuff that you don't know what it is. So
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of the idea when you're just label, label, label. To me, that's like there's sort of a lack of imagination entirely
Totally.
going on.
Totally.
Um, and probably it's a status thing too to say, look what I have. I mean, I don't really know the whole psychology of it, but I'm sure that's involved.
That's what I was saying earlier. We could go deep into like why do people do it? Like a lot of it can go back to core values, can go back to your upbringing, can go back to like your relationship with your mom. Like there's a lot of things that we could track
Yeah.
back if we had like a
Yeah.
week to go into it. But yeah.
But like I was to go back to the story of me in the store, I was so surprised that the salesperson said that to me. I wasn't upset or anything, but I was like, really? Because I just felt it just came really natural to me. I couldn't have felt more comfortable in the dress and the shoes. I ended up buying and wearing both of them. And like, I didn't really give a you know what
I know, and it's
about
a bummer that the other people aren't doing that because the real through line there is you felt amazing. You're like, yeah, this is great. I love the pieces. Like, I don't care about the price tag if it's a
right,
$10 dress, but I feel great. Great. The
right.
the bummer is the people that are spending, a hefty amount to get the brand stacking still don't feel comfortable. That's the real bummer.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they still aren't comfortable. They're still trying to find the next thing that's going to make them feel something,
Mhm.
whether it's important or connected or good or confident, and it still doesn't because it's not solved by buying the next thing, right? Like
Right,
that's not
right.
solving it. So
Yeah,
you felt great because you're clear on who you are, what you're meant to do, how you're showing up, what
yeah,
looks good on you, and you're like, let's rock and roll, let's do it. And other people go in there and brand stack and still don't feel great.
right. And then she was like, "That really is the true definition of style, what you just did by pairing those 2 things." And I was like, I didn't I guess I was like, just it was subconscious for me, but I was like, she kind of brought that to my awareness. And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
no, this is
yeah,
just what I do." It just felt innate to me. I do it in my
yeah.
home, I do it when I get dressed, whatever. So,
And
I
that's the
just thought it
goal.
was
We want
interesting.
everyone to feel that way, right? But, some people aren't there yet, and that's okay.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, my next thing we're gonna talk about in both fashion and home, like, I mean, and in fashion too, because my biggest weakness in fashion is I love handbags. I have since I was a little girl. I don't know why, I just love
I'm a
them.
shoe girl.
Yeah, and I do like shoes too. I like belts and stuff, but I'm just a sucker. I love handbags. And for home, accessorizing, really just brings the room to life. So again, if you go back to that like basic, cashmere sweater and black pants, same thing for your room. You could have a beautiful sofa, carpet, and coffee table. But if like nothing's on the bookshelves, nothing's on the coffee table, it isn't until we kind of add that jewelry for the room, the way you add accessories to an outfit, that it brings it to life. It shows some personality.
Yeah,
I also think what's nice about accessorizing in both fields is that's where you can experiment
yeah,
because you can try things out on a small scale. You can try things out with a smaller investment and really give yourself license to play around with it. Um, but it really lets your personality shine and it's like a low cost, high impact thing. So let's talk about accessorizing and sort of your view on that as well too.
I love accessorizing for things like we were talking earlier about trends. If
Yeah.
you wanna play with a trend that is like a fast fashion trend that's going to be here for a couple months and will not be here after, something like, during the summer, there's upticks from year to year on day glow, like the very fluorescent colors.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's going to be around for the summer. You're not going to be
Yeah.
wearing day glow in the dead of winter, likely. Um, or maybe you do, but
Yeah.
if it's things like that that you're like, I kind of dig it, like I'm kind of into it, and not in like a weird, I have to be wearing all the trends, but there's something about it I really like. That's a perfect example of something we can use as an accessory, whether it's a shoe or a bag or an earring or a scarf or something like, yeah, let's rock that out
Yep.
without you having to invest a ton of money into a trend that is going to disappear in a couple
Yeah.
months. So
Yeah.
I love using accessories for that. I also love using accessories for people's personalities. So
Mm.
if I find someone who's like, for example, like I always try to, this is such a good visual because people kind of remember, but Jersey Shore, when Snooki would wear like head to toe leopard, like
Leopard. Yeah.
top, pants, shoes, hair tie, all the things. She was like a
Yeah.
walking leopard print. Okay, that's the perfect example of too much of one thing, right?
Right.
But she loved it, so she gets to rock it out. If I come
That's
upon
right.
someone who's like, I just love leopard print, and they've got leopard print everything, and yet it's not giving the clear message of who they are, I'll say, great, let's use that as accessories. So we still have your personality, we still have your passion for leopard print, but we are marrying it with other things so we can layer on
Mhm.
um, the fashion, meaning the
Yeah.
more depth you give to an outfit, the more depth you give to a look, the more it looks stylized. Even if
Yeah.
that's just, well, I added a necklace or I added an outerwear piece or I added whatever, you name it, it will always look more stylized than just having
Yeah.
like a leopard print onesie and sneakers,
Yeah.
you
And I
know?
just want to say something about leopard to everybody out there. It always circles back. So save your stuff.
Always.
Like if you have a cool pair of leopard loafers or there's actually a
Oh, they'll be
leopard
back.
belt I got rid of that I wish I hadn't because it could go with everything and it's like a neutral. But like
Yeah,
leopard comes back. If you have a scarf, if you have
always.
save your leopard accessories, people, because
Yeah.
it always comes back.
It really does. It really does. True. Everything always cycles. In fashion, everything cycles. Like what are people wearing, especially the kids these days? I sound 100 years old when I say that. They're wearing 80s. They're wearing pleated
Yep.
jeans. They're wearing scrunchies. There were like
Yep.
things that I remember being so glad it was over when
Yeah.
I had to wear those things. Like that was my childhood, and it circled back around, and I was like, no, like
And I have
so
a
mad.
daughter in fashion school in New York, and they like a lot of the 90s stuff when they go thrifting, especially the handbags, the
Yeah.
style of the handbags from the 90s, they're
Don't you
loving.
love that they're like, "It's vintage," and you're like, go away. Like,
Yeah.
go
That's
away.
like yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Like
I'm vintage. Perfect.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it does all cycle,
Oh, totally.
and, same thing, so, in a home, people use leopard carpeting, and there's different scales of leopard as there is in fashion. There's small print and large print. And
Mhm.
leopard and animal prints can actually be neutrals. People don't think that,
Oh,
but, like,
yeah.
leopard carpet can last in your home a long time. So, again, if you're using what you like, you kinda can't go wrong, but accessorizing, I think, is a way to really show your personality.
Yeah.
It's that kind of lower investment. Allow yourself to play, like, allow yourself to explore. That's where to explore. And because in the home, you could wanna try a lookout, and you could do that with just throw pillows. Because you could
Oh,
have,
yeah.
like, a solid sofa, and you could say, "Well, I wanna try this boho chic look," or, "I wanna try maximalism." Buy a bunch of bright throw pillows, see how you like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
kind of start
absolutely.
there. Yeah.
That's
Rather
that's
than going, like,
exactly what you
all
should.
in and buying an orange sofa right away. You know what I mean?
Totally. Then
Yeah.
that's exactly what you should use your accessories for. Let me play with it and see how much I like it. You get some leopard pillows and you're like, I need more leopard in my life. Okay, great. So you figured that out through using it in a smaller scale. Now let's make a rug or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the fashion. Like let's start small and see how you feel and then we can go bigger. There's always an invitation to go bigger.
And the other thing with accessories is also because, like, I get in my feed, because I'm a designer, like, I'll see the same console with the same planter and the same mirror and the same, and it's like, and the same book. And it's like, your accessories need to be like things that are also personal to you
Yeah.
and also like things that maybe nobody else has.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it has to be expensive. Like, I was at a store Saturday shopping for somebody, and she had a couple things that were like 50 and $80 that she only had one of, and there is only one of because she imported like a container from
Mm,
Morocco or wherever it was. And it was like, you can buy that if you love it, and it's $50 and no one else has it. So it doesn't have to be $10,000 for no one else to have it, but have a
yeah.
couple things where like no one else has it, you
Yeah.
know? So
100%. I
same
think
thing
that
with
makes
your
it even
accessories.
better.
Yeah.
Way more interesting when you have something. I have a dress actually that now that you mention this, it's like my favorite dress. We went to Paris. So we're
Hmm.
talking about Paris. Last year I took some stylists to Paris and we worked on their businesses, but we also took them to different surprise places. One of the days we went to the YSL museum and things like that,
Oh,
right?
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the excursions was we had connected with this brand called Rihanna and Nina. Fantastic brand. They styled a lot of the pieces for Emily in Paris and
Ooh,
also for the Sex in the City prequel,
reboot
is it? Yeah,
or
the prequel, I think it is. Is it?
or the
No, maybe
movie. Yeah.
yeah. And they styled a bunch of the pieces and we went there and I wanted them to meet. The designer was actually in town, which is she's like back and forth between Germany and Paris and all the things. So it was rare that she was in town, but she was in town. So I wanted to bring them to meet her. They closed the whole store down. She told us all about her process, and her process started with her incredible mother who taught her how to make very unique things. So like one of a kind jewelry pieces and one of a kind whatever. And they have a ready to wear line, but what they built their brand on were unique, one of a kind pieces. And I bought one of the dresses there, and it's a dress made from old Hermes scarves. So
Oh, I
she
love that.
repurposes, and you can't make it again. Like, it's just that whatever they find, they repurpose these things, right? So it's just whatever fabrics they find, they then design things with that.
I love
You
that.
can't
Yeah.
repurpose that,
Right.
or you can't recreate that.
Yeah.
So I bought this dress, and it's my favorite thing ever because nobody has it. Nobody will ever have it. You cannot possibly recreate this dress
Yep.
exactly how it is. And that to me is like so special because it's not just my style, but it's also there's a story behind it and there's a connection, and it feels like I'm doing good in like repurposing. Like, there's a lot going on there, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah.
But it's an original. And
Right.
so to speak to what you were saying, instead of having that same book on your, coffee table as everyone else and the same stack and the same candles from Crate and Barrel, like,
Right.
find some original pieces
Right.
that actually speak to you, and actually maybe there's a
Exactly.
story behind it, or maybe there's something you're passionate about. Like, let that actually be a talking piece instead of like, oh, I have those same candles, I got them yesterday at Pottery Barn or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I talk about it in my accessory class too, because I have like a lucite bowl on my coffee table. But one of the things when I go away to a beach and I'm with my daughter, we
Mm.
love kind of beach combing and collecting seashells and if we can
Oh,
find a
sea
sand doll
glass.
or whatever. And so I
Yeah.
have this thing of like all the things we collected and it sits out and it every time I look at it, especially when it's winter, it's like, oh, that
Yeah.
reminds me of like that time with her, like we'll be at one of our favorite beaches. So to have things like that and display them in a way that's stylish, it's very easy to do. So all that is so good and so important, and it doesn't have to be, like what everybody else, has.
Totally.
Um, the next topic I actually just did a whole episode about, and I think you and I have the same philosophy about it, but we'll talk about trends and how you view them, and how you guide your clients when it comes to trends, because trends are cool. Trends, let's face it, are there for marketing purposes, I really
Yeah.
believe.
They're money
Um,
makers.
yeah, things do repeat, things come and go. You have to be careful of them because I think A, they have to suit you, like we talked about, and B, because you don't want to invest in something, especially in your home, like that you're tired of in 3 months or it's just whatever. So I'd like to just talk to you about how you handle trends because I'm sure with clothing it changes even more frequently.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with trends, I try to push it into the category of accessories as much as possible,
Yep.
because it is going to be something that's going to change in a couple months. So I like to keep more of the investment into their wardrobe at the place where it's smart to invest in pieces, right?
Yeah.
Like pieces that are going to stand the test of time, that we could maybe even get custom tailored for them or whatever. Like, it depends on the person, but I'd rather spend our investment on those pieces than trend pieces. So I try as hard as I can to get the trends in accessories.
Yep.
People do love trends. It makes them feel connected. It makes them feel like they're up to date. It makes them feel
Yep.
like they're on trend and they're stylish. So I totally get it. It's fine. It is a
Same.
moneymaker. It is
Yep.
it is something that people, that the brands do to have
It's a
cash
marketing
injections.
thing. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cash injection for them. And they do loop around. So you could keep things that you've had and use them again. But we really try as hard as we can to keep the trends in accessories. That's
Yeah.
not to say there isn't a time when someone's like, no, I really want, like, let's just go back to leopard because we were on that. I really
Yeah.
want a leopard dress. Okay, sure. Like, let's rock out the leopard dress. Maybe I'll throw a black bomber jacket over it or something to break it up and give more depth and more layer. But I try with trends to keep it in the accessory department as hard as I can.
That's a smart idea, and I tell people to, like, experiment that way, like I said, and
Yeah.
like you said with the bones of stuff, so, like, you should buy your sofa and upholstery with good bones, good
Yes.
construction, good fabric, not just because like, this brand is trending and every influencer is showing it right now that because it
Exactly.
has this, and this. Because there are sofas that do that, and sofas are expensive no matter where you're getting them from. So I
Yeah.
always suggest, like, get the bones of your room and, like, if you never have to change the bones of your room down the road,
Yeah.
except for maybe, like, because the fabric gets worn out or whatever, that is just great, that's worth
That's
your investment,
ideal.
and then you can change a lot of things around it.
Yeah.
And even paint and stuff like that. If you decide like, well, I do feel colorful now, and then after 5 years you don't, you can paint it neutral. So even paint you can change without
Yeah.
crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
I mean, I
totally
think
agree.
that's probably good advice.
Yeah.
Um, the next thing I wanted to talk about, basically just in general, like what you and I do, I really consider it a language. Um,
Mm.
and I feel like anyone could learn it if they wanted to. People feel like they're not creative, but everybody is creative. They just have to tap into it.
Mhm.
And so I want to, when we talk about confidence, I also think it's important for people to feel like they can tap into their own creativity. Um, so let's say if somebody wanted to DIY their wardrobe, or get help from a professional, the professional just acts as what I call like the translator. Like I
Mhm.
sometimes feel like with people, they're just lost, they don't know what to do. I'll kind of hear what they like, hear what they need, and I'll be like, oh, how about this room? And I can visualize it for them and show them, and they're like, yeah, that's what I mean.
Mhm.
Um, so I think the professional just acts as this sort of translator, for what the client likes, translates it into an outfit, a home, a room, or whatever. And I wanted to just talk about that a little, as far as, we're here to guide and to help people, help them tap into that, whether they want to do it on their own or use a professional. Um, I do feel like it's a language, kind of. It's like learning a language.
Yeah, and I think that with anything, like you said, anyone can learn it. Anyone can learn the
Mhm.
language. You could learn French, start today and learn the language. You could start a new job and feel very uncomfortable because it's day one. You have no idea how things work. I mean, think of any job you've started. Day one and day two, you were like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get this. And then like a couple weeks later, you're not even thinking about it. It's just so second nature. It
Right.
can be the same thing with the language of your style or the language of your design in your home. The important thing is allowing yourself to play with that, in my opinion,
Right.
because I think, like I told you, I just have this, um, I don't know, innate gift where I literally can visualize something on someone's body. It's
Yeah.
weird. Like I can see a dress on Revolve, kind of close my eyes or tilt my head and like picture their body in it. And I'm like, no. Or like, oh yeah, I think actually that will work. And that the client might see the piece and be like, you're out of your gourd. Like that's never going to work. And again, I'll be like, just humor me. Like just
Yeah.
humor me and try. I could be totally wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm fine with being wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and they try it and they're like, it's amazing. But you get stronger in that language when you have permission to play. And when
Yep.
you allow yourself to say, what am I comfortable with? And how could I grow it by like one word or two words? Is if we're
Yeah.
comparing it to a
Yeah.
language, what can I add to my vocabulary? And
Yeah.
play and just see what you feel comfortable with. The contrast allows you to see where you're really at. Meaning,
Yeah.
if you figure out something you don't want, that's great because it shows you what you do want. Or you figure
Yeah.
out something you don't like, that's great because it shows you something you do like,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's how you kind of grow that language.
Yeah, definitely. And I think using a professional to help you guide you to guide you to
Mhm.
communicate it, because inside you kind of know, but maybe you don't know how to communicate it. And
Yeah.
we can help kind of extract that,
Mhm.
um, out of you, which I think could be really helpful.
And
Um,
it helps it to not be so intimidating, right? Because
yeah,
if you go into a store and you know nothing about fashion and someone's like, "Oh, well, are you looking for like A-line or are you looking for more?" And they start saying all these words that you're like, now you're just going to go into overwhelm because you're like, "I should know this." They're
or
asking
feel
me this like
intimidated. Yeah.
exactly. Like they're asking me this like I should know this and I don't. So now I'm intimidated and I want to leave. Well, instead you could go in with an expert who can translate for you, be your translator, and then you
Right.
get to learn that way instead of feeling like, "Ugh, everyone knows so much more than I do." Go in with an expert and then let them translate for you and then you'll learn it very quickly.
Yeah. Because like you said with an outfit, so I can envision a room, like I can
Yeah.
see the whole room. So if when
Mhm.
a client has me over, and then sometimes what I need is like based on our conversation and what they're looking to do. It's really funny, but like it's like when things get quiet, whether I'm in the shower or going to sleep or wake up
Yeah.
sort of thinking, all of a sudden it'll like fall together like a puzzle for me. So
Yeah.
within hours after I leave the job, I'll be like, okay, this is it. This is what we do. And I
Yeah.
literally visualize it.
Yeah, I can just see it. But the funny thing is, I know I told you this also when we spoke, I can't do that for rooms. Like the gift
Yeah.
you have, I don't have. I can closets and closet organization and outfits and designing looks. I can do that like it's weird magic that just comes together in my
Yeah.
brain and in my head. But every place I have ever lived since I left my mom's house at the age of 18 to go to college, I have set up exactly how I saw it when I toured it, either to see if I wanted to rent it or buy it. I then set it up that exact way because I can't see any other thing. I'm like, well, that's just obviously how it's meant to be set up. And my
Isn't
best
that
friend,
funny?
who I lived with, changed her room like every other week. And I'm like, how do you see that? And she's like, it's how do you not see it? Like it's so boring to keep it one way. I have to like switch it up and like get a fresh new vibe. And I was just amazed that she could like see it in 3 different ways.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we've talked about a lot, and I think the main message is like for people, just allow yourself to play, allow yourself to experiment. Um, yeah, to impart on people that try to get as much confidence as you can to say, this is what I like, and like not feel judged by it.
Yeah.
It's really okay. And to give yourself permission to play a little, because once you play a little, I think that also helps you sort of tap into your creativity, which is also helpful. And for the
Yeah.
final point, I think that people feel like, okay, I just want to do this, and like then it's done. Right. And I get that. But with what you and I do, and you touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the episode, is that it it really is kind of a fluid thing for
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
different reasons, and it's not fluid because trends are changing, you gotta keep up with trends. It's fluid because your needs change, your wants change, your likes change, and I just think it evolves, and evolution's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
let's just talk about that a little bit, how yeah, everything things are an investment. It doesn't mean that you have to be fly by night with it, but at the same time, things are gonna be a little fluid and you're gonna change things out and change
Yeah,
things
I
up.
think in my opinion, it should change. So if you're looking to like, I just want to figure out my style or I just want to figure this out and be done with it, that's not fashion and it's not, I don't think it's interior design either. It should be an evolution because to your point, it's not because trends are changing and you need to keep up with the Joneses and make sure you're on top of the trends. It's because you're changing. Like just
Mm,
through the growth of your own self and the years go on, your life changes, your needs change, but also who you are as a human. And you get to uh, have the visual representations of that through your style, through your house, through the things that make you feel good and make you feel connected to how you feel at that moment. It should evolve. And I try to
yeah,
tell my people that all the time. If your style hasn't evolved over the past couple years, we need to look at that because it might mean that you're stuck in a rut.
yeah,
And it's not that you need to just keep buying things. That's not my message at all. My message is give yourself permission to play and see maybe there's some things you want to let go of that don't fit anymore, don't fit your lifestyle anymore, and maybe there's things that you want to add that are wonderful.
um, somebody'll do like sometimes there's these, Facebook groups for design, and people will be like, "No, that's wrong," or "No, you can't do." They just feel like it's
Oh,
so black
yeah.
and white and there's such hard and fast rules, and it's actually the opposite. There's a lot of gray areas, so don't feel like don't feel ever feel judged, and definitely don't feel like it's black and white, right and wrong. There are some principles probably that both Kate
Yeah.
and I use, some like foundational principles, but after that, there's a lot of gray area for sure.
Yeah, which is just more permission to play, right? Like if it's gray,
Exactly.
then play in it and don't feel like there has to be a rule. People create rules because it gives them a sense of comfort and something to go by.
True.
So it's like, oh, if you give me a rule, I know what to stay within.
Right.
And in fashion and interior design, we're saying no, just play. And for some people that like bust their brain, they're just like, huh? No, give
Yeah.
me the formula. You're like,
Well,
give me the formula to success. But look, there's definitely principles. Like you said, there's principles that we go by, but part of getting into a creative world with your style or with your interior design is just playing and knowing like there is no getting it wrong. You're not going to get it wrong. You
right.
might decide you don't like that or you want it to change. That's fine. But there's
Yep.
not like a hard and fast, you're going to get it wrong if you don't do it this way. Allow yourself to just tap into like, what do I feel really good in? Do when I put this on, do I feel great? Do
Yep.
I feel like I'm more myself? Do I feel like
Yep.
the message I'm saying is good? Then I'm gonna wear that and I'm gonna
Yeah.
feel great about it.
Yeah. Like when I look at that in my home, do I feel
Yeah.
happy? Do I feel comfort? Do I feel peaceful? All of that because both of these things are creative endeavors.
Yeah.
They're creative. And so you've
Exactly.
got it's using that creative part of your brain, which is not absolute. So
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
and that's harder for some people than others, but we all have the ability. It's a matter of tapping into it. So
Yeah.
this was a
I agree.
great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on. I think the overlap between the two and using the analogies and the examples can really resonate and help people. And that's the whole idea is to really help people because I hear all the time how stumped people get with this. And so I wanted to really alleviate that some more and have a conversation with you because I think you're a really good person to
Yeah.
talk to about it. We have a very similar philosophy that I think could help people just feel just more down to earth about it and like
Yeah.
not so intimidated by it is the big thing.
I 100% agree. I've
Because
enjoyed this
intimidation just
conversation. It's
blocks
been really
that
fun.
creative, mechanism even further, you know?
Yeah, it certainly does. It certainly feels like you have to be in a box that's not maybe not even a box you wanna be in. So,
Right.
yeah, allow
Exactly.
yourself to play. Permission to play. I feel like that's the theme of the show.
Exactly. So, we'll close the show, if there's any further advice you have, but we've covered a lot. But if you want to list your platforms and websites, we'll put it all in the show notes with links. You also, I want to mention, you have a digital course. If you want to let the audience know about your digital courses as well as your other services, that'd be great.
Yeah, so you can find me pretty much anywhere. Kate Taylor Stylist is if that's my Instagram handle, that's my website. Kate Taylor Stylist on all the things. So it's pretty easy. If you type in Kate Taylor Stylist to Google, it will take you there as well. But yeah, we do one-on-one fashion styling. So if you're looking to be styled or get some support around that, I would just say check out my website. There's a couple tabs there that you can just check out how I do that. And
Yep.
if you are in the style world, if you are someone who is looking to become a fashion stylist or grow their fashion styling business, I would also check out my website and go to more of the school side where you see the different courses that I offer. The biggest thing we're doing right now that I'm obsessed with is we have a membership for fashion stylists. It is like the exclusive membership that's got resources and monthly trainings and all the things and community. It's wonderful. It's called Stylist Society.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out if you are a stylist and looking for some more support, resources, and connection.
That's great. I love that, Kate. And
Yeah,
again, I really appreciate you coming on. I think this can be a great episode to help
it is.
everybody out. Yeah.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation.